Hi, welcome back to part 2 of our visit to Edgewood Studios in Rutland, Vermont. In part 1, you met the owner, Dave Giancola. In part 2, Dave's going to spend some time going through the pros and cons of how he sees the answer to that question. And the question is can Vermont ever have a thriving film or TV business? And the reason I ask is my son just graduated from a college that will rename nameless. Rename? Nameless?
Be named.
Be named?
Nameless.
Nameless?
Nameless.
Nameless.
I'm not telling.
And he has a massive amount of debt to show for it. And he's wondering, so now what? I have to leave Vermont. Now, this question's old.
Yeah, it's very old.
Yeah.
I'm almost tired of talking about it. I'm
Yeah.
almost tired of explaining myself.
And is that because you never see sunlight?
Yes. I don't see any, on this issue, the answer is no, I don't, sorry kids, I don't see a thriving film community in Vermont. It's not that I don't want there to be one. I would love if there was one. Matter of fact, if there was one, I'd have a lot more money and I'd be much busier. But there ain't gonna be one, folks, sorry. And I appreciate all the efforts, but this battle for tax incentives that's been going on forever is really not a battle because there's no political will in Montpelier.
Right.
Okay, since there's no political will, and more importantly, there's no political money in Montpelier to back this issue. Now, if you want tax incentives like they have tax incentives for solar, there's political money in Montpelier being spent to back that issue. There is no political will. Phil Scott can say what he wants. When he was running for governor, he was all happy to say tax incentives. Nothing's happened. Yeah. So when we had a film, and we used to have a film commission, we used to have movies coming here to shoot. That was all pre-tax incentives being everywhere. Mostly they were in Canada and other countries to start, and now they're in other states. Tax incentives really killed that. But more importantly, there was no political will to bring tax incentives to the state of Vermont because there's no political will. There's not even any political will to keep a film commission running.
Vermont, to me, seems kind of broke.
Yeah.
So I don't see Vermont as ever having any real money to even pretend that it could compete.
Well, here's the thing. Tax incentives don't have to be money handed out. They're just a break on taxes that you then monetize. If tax incentives are so bad and they don't work, why are we doing it for solar? If we don't have the money, why are we doing it for certain things but not others?
Right.
And if they've been proven to work, why are we not doing them? And the answer is there's no understanding or political will. My actor friend John James, people probably know from Dynasty, was just in another one of these Hallmark movies. Now, I made a Hallmark movie in Chester, and we made it, and I showed them how to do it without tax incentives, and we can make it work. They never came back. He was down, he did one in upstate New York because of tax incentives. They shot 2 back-to-back. They brought everybody in.
Wow.
They spent a ton of money in these small towns that were just as depressed as where we're sitting right now.
Right.
Dumped money like crazy.
And might even have passed as Vermont.
Matter of fact, one of the movies was called Vermont Christmas or something.
Yeah,
it was set in Vermont. And you know, and we did that in Chester, Vermont. We dumped $600,000 off season in Chester, Vermont, in the community that I proved. As a matter of fact, when we talk about tax incentives, I went up to Montpelier with the numbers on Moonlight and Mistletoe. Showed that we dropped $600,000 in Chester, Vermont, off season, lodging, everything, food, buying things locally, you name it. Chester was because they had a movie called Funny Farm, a Chevy Chase movie that didn't do well nearby. But once we proved to them that we weren't going to hurt the environment, they loved us, and they would love us to have us back. And plus, we made it set in Chester, so it was an advertisement for the town, for tourism.
New York State is
15 minutes from here. I could be there in 15 minutes, yeah.
And that is the giant in the country right now. As of last year's figure, they were outspending California. So it was an outrageous number, 500 million just to either draw you in or keep you there.
Right.
And so you're 15 minutes over, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you shot most everything in Vermont.
I did. With Accelerator, we shot in Vermont. I have not made the leap to a tax incentive state.
And so it's 15 minutes. Why wouldn't you just go get money over there?
Well, that's a kind of a complex issue for me that has to do with my business.
Okay.
But first of all, I guess the simple thing is, in the city of Rutland, I have a lot of resources. In terms of, as much as I complain about things, I can pretty much clear anything I want in terms of locations. If I want to clear a street, for example, in a movie, and it is harder now to do this than it was, but we did this in a movie Sunday morning. I did once blow up half a parking deck.
Right.
We did drive down Main Street at 80 miles an hour. on a Sunday morning with police escort and everything else. And we've done things like that, and I have a good relationship in the city where, as much as I gripe about it, I can get a lot of things done here. I have discounts on everything from box truck rentals, car rentals, equipment rentals. I can negotiate, because I know where the off-season rates for lodging here, I can negotiate either up at Killington or over at the lakefront properties. I can negotiate really cheap lodging, which is a huge line item budget. My family owns a catering company, which was able to do craft service. And so when you take all those line items together, plus you take the fact that the economy here is depressed and people are willing to work for less money, then the numbers make more sense for my company. I also am able to, with my local relationships, to defer stuff because they know I'm good for my word. So at the end of the day, I could make things cheaper here in Rutland than I can by getting my 25% 15 minutes away.
If you're self-funded, then the world is a much easier place.
For me, it is because I've stayed in this place, this town, this state for a long time. I have a lot of criticisms. I'd like tax incentives in Vermont. I'd like things to be more cooperative than they are, but I can always complain. I have a pretty good arrangement here.
For me, films feel like tourists. They come in, spend a little money, and leave. Hard to, and you may never see them again.
Sure.
TV seems to be something. If we were going after one of the two, it would be TV, because if the pilot does work and the series is going to be made in Vermont, it might stay there for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, dumping a lot of money. I mean, I think of Georgia. Is it Georgia and Walking Dead? You know, they've been there.
Yeah, I think it is Georgia. Yeah.
They've been there a long time. I think it's going on 8 years. They've dropped a ton of money.
That's right.
Why film? Why not TV series, Dave?
First of all, TV series is a lot of work and can be a grind. I mean, it's a lot of work.
You're doing a years now.
Yeah, and I don't really have the infrastructure to put up a series, and I'm not. You have to write a book for TV series. You have to have a showrunner. It's a little more of an insular kind of thing to get into. So, and I also don't need to. I don't need to go beat the crap out of myself, to try and help a state that's not helping itself.
Yes.
I'm very happy making movies like Accelerator when I want to, and Accelerator 2 or something else when I want to.
So now
and I actually, and it's funny, Accelerator, because of the way it ends, which I'm not giving away any spoilers or anything, but there's been talk of, hey, it'd be a great series. But if we went to series, I don't know that we'd make it here. For a number of reasons, the primary one being there's no tax incentives, and the secondary is there's no crew here, which means you have to lodge everybody. So, and for a long period of time, that's a big line item.
Right.
And
it's not easy to get here. Yep. And once you get here, you can't call home anymore.
For the last 10 years, audiences have only been able to enjoy the cult classic Time Chasers one way. Until now. Time Chasers finally comes to DVD in a special anniversary edition with enhanced visuals and sound. After more than 15 years, you're invited to meet again, for the first time, Nick Miller, Lisa Henson, J.K. Robertson, Matthew Paul, and Nick's past self.
Sure, I got a transport too.
The new anniversary edition is chock full of special features, with lost, deleted scenes, audio commentary, and behind-the-scenes documentaries, including Memories in Time, which reunites the original cast of Time Chasers for a humorous look back at the film's history.
Here's the other thing, and to tell you a story.
It just gets worse.
It gets worse because, and I was speaking about this when we were talking earlier about Accelerator, about my frustrations with the lack of support by government. So we filmed at Parking Deck. We had some issues. We were cleared there. We had permission from everybody, from the owners. We did everything right. They called the police on us. The police said they're not doing anything wrong. They have the right to be here. So when we want to go back to that location just for pickup shots, the government stepped in, state of Vermont government stepped in, Buildings and General Services says, no, you need to fill out this form. I said, I don't have to fill out any forms. Well, there's no film commission. There's no forms to fill out for me to film. They send me a form to do a public event. Okay?
They probably dug that up from somewhere.
They dug it out of nowhere because they wanted to be obstructionists and they didn't want to get in trouble themselves.
Right.
Primarily, Haas, I don't think they wanted to be obstructionists. They just didn't want to get in trouble themselves. They wanted to keep their job. Okay? You don't give filmmakers forms for a parade or for an event, and that, by the way, had never been used before.
Yeah.
They just literally pulled it out of their rectum, shoved it at me, and said, you got to fill out this form. And I said, I'm not filling out this form. And they said, but you're being problematic. I said, I'm not being trouble. If I fill out this form, then you're going to stick everybody who walks in this state, wants to film on state property, with this form, which is not accurate.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, I'm not some fly-in-the-night company. I've been around since 1987.
Yeah.
We're bonded, we're insured, we're licensed to do this. You know, you can't just start filming a movie without being insured and having liability insurance and clearances, and the amount of paperwork to make a feature film is insane. People don't understand. It's not like we're making some student film.
So you're also saying something that the knowledge base, that it's been so long since there's been a functioning active film commission that the people who used to know what had to be done to make it smooth and work, they're sort of vanishing, and then all you've got is people going, well, I don't know where the form is, give him this.
Right. I think there's two things. I think
this is your last chance, by the way.
I know, my last chance to redeem myself. I think there's two things that should be done. And one of them is a glimmer of hope, and one of them is what needs to be done. I've been doing nothing but complaining and telling you how bad things are. If we are going to bring outside productions in Vermont, bringing that money into Vermont, getting things going, we need to start to take the right steps. The first step is restoring the Film Commission. Okay? The step probably before that is some kind of better communication with all the film professionals in the state, anybody related to film. Okay? And actually that would be my first step, is a website, a database, communications. And I think also it's not just film people, it should be film people, arts people, music people should be getting together because they all benefit.
Right.
So that step needs to be taken of putting people together somehow. Then we need a film commission. Then from there, we need to build lobbying support and maybe lobby some money from up here. So if someone can take those steps, those are the steps to take. The glimmer of hope for me is having just worked with a lot of really talented, energetic, smart young people on Accelerator. I think it's going to be these young people that are going to have to change this. It's not going to be old guys like you and me. It needs to be young filmmakers, young professionals in the industry and around the industry who want to see it here. And even you mentioned about gaming. Gaming is part of it, should be in there as well.
Right.
You know, I think if we want tech in Vermont and we want media and film in Vermont, then the young people need to get started and they need to start to pick up the reins. I've fought those battles, Haas. I'm not going to go fight them again.
Yeah.
I've been told no so many times. But that's, you know, but here's the thing. When I made my first film, and you were in my first short film, what was great about that you never can recapture, but what mattered about that was I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And if you don't know how high the mountain is when you start climbing, you'll climb it.
Right.
You know, and once you get over it, you'll climb something. You know what I mean? So making your first film is a mountain to climb. And I think there's that young person out there, whether it's a young filmmaker, young film professional, who, not knowing what they don't know, could come in and save us.
So there you go. I'm going to leave you with 3 quick points. 1, on the good news front, there's a group down here in southern Vermont that has started the Vermont Production Council. Their goal is to pick up a lot of the duties that, if Vermont had a film commission, would be getting done on a daily basis. So that's a great first step. Point 2 is about the tax incentives. As Dave pointed out, we as a state don't have to give money away that we don't have to these production companies. We simply have to take less in terms of taxes. As they say, some money is better than no money, and right now we seem to be getting a lot of no money in this state. And finally, an overall thought on our ability as a state to bring in these cutting-edge industries. Sometimes I wonder, since we're the second oldest state in the country, and we're one of the fastest growing older states in the country, sometimes I wonder if we're coasting and we don't realize it. Yes, we talk about our population problems all the time, maybe too much. And yes, we talk about drawing in new businesses and making this a vibrant place, and our kids will stay and get jobs, and we'll get jobs, and everything will be great. But sometimes I wonder if at our age, if we have the energy and the ambition and the stamina to do all that it's going to take to turn this state around? Or is Dave correct that no, we don't, that it's really our children that have it and can do it, and we need them? I'll leave you with that. Haas, GNAT News. We'll see you soon.